may paraphrase a president, the torch has, once again, been passed to a new generation. However, with the passing of that torch comes a responsibility to not only continue to look forward, but also look back and honor and care for, in the most dignified way possible, those who passed it to us.
I'm Arthur O'Neill. I'm here speaking on Raise Bill 477. I'm actually not going to do very much speaking because I would like to give Joseph Stango, who is sitting with me, a constituent of mine, and along with him is his mother, the opportunity to tell you their story.
My name is Joseph J. Stango. I reside at 85 Hampton Court in Southbury. A few years ago, the news anchor for NBC, Tom Brokaw, published a book. It's called The Greatest Generation. The book was a tribute to the members of World War II generation, to whom we Americans and the world owe so much, quote unquote. In it, Mr. Brokaw tells stories of courage, of honor, of commitment, and of course love. Love of country and love of family. Many of these stories were of ordinary Americans who did extraordinary things. Now, before I get to the crux of why I am here, I'd like to tell you a brief story about one couple that is of the greatest generation, my mother and father. Dora was born on March 23rd, 1923, at Waterbury Hospital. She was the 9th child of 10 children, born to a family that lived in the Oakville section of Watertown, Connecticut. My mother, Dora, never finished high school. She left school to help with the chores around the house and to work in a factory to help support her family. She worked briefly in the Oakville pin shop and later in the auto wire, where she worked as a machinist during World War II. In the early 1940s, she met my father, Joseph, while he was on leave from the Army. Coincidentally, Joseph also left high school at a young age to support his mother and his 3 sisters after having lost his father at the early age of 8. They gave birth to 2 boys, Michael in 1948 and Raymond in 1950. Joe became a chef in the Army, and he applied his trade after the war, becoming a short-order cook. Like all young men, Joe dreamed of a better life for his family. In one eventful moment, my parents decided that Joe would go back to school and Dora would go back to work, which she had left when her sons were born, to support her family. Joe first completed his GED coursework and received his certificate. He then began his studies toward a bachelor's degree at New Haven State Teachers College. Having received his bachelor's, he went on to receive his master's degree at the University of Hartford. Through all those years of study, Dora continued to work the late shift at U.S. Rubber, while Joe attended school during the day. Joe went on to become a teacher in the Waterbury school system and finished his career in education in the early 1980s as a principal at North End Middle School in Waterbury. Needless to say, they showed as much courage, commitment, honor, and indeed love as those outlined by Tom Brokaw in his book. Now, this abbreviated version of Dora's life is one of thousands who make up the greatest generation here in Connecticut. I'm sure your family has stories just like mine. I'm equally sure you're as proud of their stories as I am of my family's. Unfortunately, we allow this greatest generation to also suffer the greatest indignation. When they are old and they reach a certain level of inability to care for themselves and they are unable to afford to have others care for them, we tell them they must apply to Medicaid and they must enter a nursing home. If you ask the elderly who now reside in nursing homes right now what they want most in life, they'll tell you, I want to go home. This is devastating to the elderly and their families. When we were first married, my wife and I made a commitment to each other that we would care for our elderly mothers. In fact, we built a house that would accommodate 2 handicapped mothers. Our home is now equipped with a wheelchair ramp, a handicapped bathroom, and doors wide enough to fit wheelchairs. We also purchased a handicapped van to transport both moms. Both are in wheelchairs and need assistance. However, the level of assistance is different for both. While we are still able to care for Alba at home because her needs are at a lower level, my mother's needs unfortunately progressed beyond what I could afford to pay on my own, which is the reason I have come to you today. I asked my state representative, Arthur O'Neill, to submit a bill on behalf of my family and thousands of elderly across Connecticut. This bill, number 477, would allow families a choice to use the traditional alternative Medicaid offers through the use of nursing home facilities, or use the money to care for the family member at home regardless of the level of care that is needed. In short, I'm not asking you to change the rules that qualify a person for Medicaid. I'm certainly not here to ask you for more money for the program. All I ask is for consideration as to where those services are rendered, in a nursing home or at a home allowing the elderly to live their remaining years surrounded by their loved ones. Lest I come to you this morning to ask you to help me bring my mom and thousands like her back home. I hope by now it's obvious that Dora's family loves her very much, just like other families all across Connecticut who love their parents, or their sisters, or their brothers, their aunts, and their uncles. And for this one brief moment in time, we're just hoping you'll love them too.